If you've ever been hit with the mentally crippling thoughts that come from imposter syndrome, you'll probably relate to what I'm about to tell you. But I hope that by the end of this video, you might see a way to overcome your imposter syndrome yourself. And how does imposter syndrome relate to publishing comics and self-promotion? Stick with me and I'll explain. Hi, I'm Dion, artist and writer of Reel Paranormal Investigator, documenting the process of creating a webcomic to help you if you're also thinking of making your own. It's the only comic out there that features an afro-wearing, katana-swinging demon hunter. Okay, well look, the only one who has a talking sword. I'll be drawing a scene from chapter 2 where Jim is just meditating a little bit, just trying to relax after the last adventure. I thought it might go nicely with today's topic and help us all relax a little. By the way, if you haven't checked out the first chapter yet, I've made a free download you can grab right now to get stuck into his first adventure. So maybe after watching this video, if you're looking for something new, why not head over to my website and grab yourself a digital copy to read. Links are in the description below. So I used to suffer from really bad imposter syndrome. In fact, I do still get it from time to time. It's just not as bad these days. And thanks to the wonderful support of my wife, I think I've really been able to work through some issues that now help me to deal with it when I do feel those negative thoughts creep in. Imposter syndrome is when you have those constant internal negative thoughts about yourself that tell you you're just not good enough at your job, a sport, your hobby, or maybe even being a parent or friend, despite the fact that you are. It's usually associated with people outwardly who appear to be really good at what they are doing, but internally they are struggling with these constant anxious and negative thoughts of inadequacy. Despite all your achievements and accolades of success in whatever you do, your brain will still tell you that you are not a success. You're a fraud, or you have no idea what you're talking about, and everyone is going to expose you for the real phony that you are. Even up until my late 30s, those types of thoughts probably hindered my illustration career a lot. Up until a few years ago, I certainly never would have considered making a YouTube channel like this to talk about my work and the comic book I'm creating. And I certainly never would have considered talking about the negative thoughts I have about my work. So how did I deal with my imposter syndrome? The path out of the imposter syndrome forest of doom for me became visible when I decided I was going to start teaching the techniques I used to make my illustrations. I ended up making a really in-depth course about my methods. I learned how to film, how to edit, add music. All of these things were completely new to me. I learned so much from the experience, loved every minute of it, despite at times feeling like it was the hardest and most exhausting thing I'd ever done. But at the end of it all, I'd made a course that I was really proud of. And now all that was left to do was promote it to people. Now this is the point where imposter syndrome started to creep in again. And I started getting lost in that dark forest of anxiety and thinking I was a fraud. Things like, how on earth can you teach people how to do art? You're not a real illustrator. You've never worked for Disney, Marvel, or DC Comics. How do you think people will take you seriously? But I knew I had to get over this problem somehow. If I didn't make this thing work, all that effort I'd put into making a course to teach people how to make their own illustrations would be wasted. And the biggest motivator to find a solution was the thought that I would be letting down my family, who had sacrificed a lot of their time and energy to allow me the chance to make the course. So this was my solution. I'd always loved comics. Being a full-time comic book creator was my original dream when I first thought of becoming an illustrator. In a roundabout way, I kind of got the chance to work on a few comic books for some small indie publishers. But most of my bread and butter was in the children's book and advertising world, which I'm incredibly grateful for, but was never the final destination for me. Now, self-promotion has never come easy for me. The thought of trying to promote my illustration course to the masses was frightening. And I'm no salesman, but I can draw comics. And I can draw hand-painted comics using the exact techniques that I teach in the course. It was around about this time that I started coming up with ideas for Jim Reel's first comic book adventure. So I thought to myself, what if I film myself making the Jim Reel comic? I'm pretty sure there has to be a few people out there still interested in hand-painted comics. It can't all be digital and AI generated yet, can it? To my surprise, it isn't. There is still a huge community of comic book lovers out there that love good old-fashioned hand-painted techniques. Oh, to clarify, I do use colour pencil as well. And some of those readers are just like me. Artists interested in making hand-painted illustrations, but maybe they just don't yet have the skills or the knowledge to start yet. And through my comic, they learn about my course and get access to other learning material I provide as I make the comic, most of which is completely free. The wonderful thing about this, I've found, is that my imposter syndrome never gets in the way. You see, those thoughts of being a fraud only came up when I tried to promote my illustration course. I'd feel negative about my work, or I think I don't really know what I'm talking about, which actually isn't true. But I circumvent those negative thoughts by not trying to promote the course at all. Instead, I just make a comic that just so happens to use the techniques that are in the course. I don't push anyone to buy the course or my books. They are just there, ready and available. But the comic is always free to read, which makes me feel good to know that so many people have the opportunity to see the creation that I'm becoming more and more proud of. Because if it hadn't been for that leap to make the comic, I don't think I would have gotten over that hurdle of imposter syndrome. By making the comic, putting it online and seeing the huge positive reactions to my work, I've realized that I'm okay. I've luckily had such a positive reception to the comic that it has boosted my confidence to show more of my work and how I make my work. I didn't have any of the horrible, worst fears come true that I thought would happen if I did do this thing. I really was overwhelmed by the positive feedback to the comic, and I'm so grateful to everyone that is reading it, enjoying it, and interacting with me here on YouTube, the community page, DMs and email. Being able to join a wonderful community of like-minded people who only help and support your work is a great way to keep those horrible thoughts of imposter syndrome away. And I implore you, if you're not in a community that supports your work, find one. And if you can't find one, make one. It will really make a huge difference to how you see your work. The final piece to the puzzle came just the other day when I received a comment to one of my videos. I read all the comments, and I'm so grateful to you for taking the time to watch my videos and leave comments, so I'll always take the time to respond. Even if it's in another language, I'll do my best to Google translate it and send a response. But every now and then I'll get a message that just makes no sense, so I'll have to Google it. This particular message said, Promo SM smiley face. No wait, laughing face. What the heck is Promo SM, I thought. I found out online that it can have several meanings. One might mean promote social media or promote so much. Either way, it's for a social media company that targets small channels like mine, leaves a comment to try and get you to visit their homepage to sign up and buy their social media marketing service. Not really my thing, and personally, I would not recommend it. But initially, I thought it was saying promote so much, meaning you promote so much. Dion, you promote yourself so much. My imposter syndrome read into this one stupid message, rephrased it in my mind to make me think that somehow finally a viewer out there had seen through the facade and finally called me out for the fraud I am. I was caught. My initial reaction was one of panic. I thought, does this mean that everyone watching my videos thinks I just spend all my time promoting my comic? Have they all connected the dots like a detective in front of a pinup board with those little bits of red string, interconnecting everything together, finally solving the devious plot I'd so painstakingly put together? No, of course not. Because I realized there is no plot. I'm not trying to trick anyone. Of course my YouTube channel is here to promote my work. What on earth does anyone have a social media account for if it's not to promote something? That was when I started to calm down and realize it's okay to promote yourself. In fact, Promo SM made me realize that if there is a whole industry out there dedicated to taking our money to promote for us, it sure as hell is okay for me to promote my own work for free, right? So thanks Promo SM, you somehow helped me break down another imposter syndrome barrier. Now I realize not everyone will simply read a message like that and have an epiphany to overcome their imposter syndrome. So I do recommend that if you are suffering from imposter syndrome, get yourself some help by talking about it with an expert. But before we end, can you do one thing for me? If you're a comic book creator, digital or printed, can you please leave a comment below with a link to your comic? YouTube is a place that can connect so many of us together and to allow us to see someone's work that probably would never end up on our radar because not everyone has the opportunity to make a YouTube channel yet. I've been fortunate enough to reach a lot of people with my work through YouTube, And I know there are a lot of people watching this video right now who would love to see your work too. So please go ahead and leave a link in the comments to your comic, leave a little explanation about what it is so we can all see your work, get excited about it, and become your newest reader. Thanks so much for watching. Let's talk soon.